What is up? Welcome back to Market Psychology 101, where we look for value in the markets when there's fear and are cautious when there's greed. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at some of the top Bitcoin mining stocks and their technical analysis. Let's start off with fear and greed, and we are back down into neutrality territory for stocks, which to me makes sense because yesterday we had quite the pump in the market. So just a tiny little bit of a pullback. And as far as crypto, over the course of 10 days, right as we're about to hit extreme fear, we went all the way up to the ceiling of greed and extreme greed. In this area, right around 75, it has been tough. So if Bitcoin can break through that, like it did last November when the Fed also had a similar rate cut cycle as the one that just started now, I think that'll be very good for Bitcoin. Maybe we can get towards that 155K target we've been talking about so much on this channel. As far as monthly returns and seasonality, we can see that September overall was good. And so, again, if this is similar to last year, maybe October and November can be good as well. December tends to be not so bad on average, too. So we'll wait and see about that. As far as alt season metrics, we're still low there as well. So we are going to get into our miners. We've focused on Mara, Iron today. Just going to take a quick peek at Riot. Each week we kind of take a little bit more of a microscopic view at one of these mining stocks. So let's just start off with Bitcoin. We're here on the weekly, and while we're on the weekly, you can see that we had a nice bounce off that 20-week moving average. But I really want to look at a couple other indicators, such as the MACD and the stochastic RSI. So here's our MACD, and let's go to our stochastic. Here we go. I think overall in the weekly, this is pretty positive. The MACD, when that flips green, it tends to be very good for the crypto market. Last time a little muted, but if we go to last October, oddly enough, when the MACD flipped green, you can see Bitcoin went from around 60K to 110K. So a similar move this time around would be very, very big. I think we could hit that 150K level, if not higher. Let's get into our first mining stock, and let's start off with the number one mining stock, and that is Iron Limited. And Iron has just been blowing through that weekly, or that area of resistance there, I should say, at the 1618 at around 44. Getting through that, the next area of resistance will be the 2618 at 71. So as you all can see, if you're new to this channel, I use fibs and moving averages quite a bit. We have this Fibonacci retracement drawn high to low. You take that fib off log, and you can see some of these extension numbers. So we'll see what happens at the 2618. But this thing is very much in bubble territory. I mean, if you even look at a bubble risk indicator, not that it can't go higher. This is crypto, mind you. But yeah, Iron doing very well. I hope some of you have some Iron and are getting in on these profits. I am curious. I keep thinking about doing this and forgetting. Do we have? Yeah, this thing is well above even its pi cycle indicator. Albeit, how good is this indicator for this chart? Because it is a newer one. So take that for what it's worth. But if all of a sudden we see the pi cycle starting to cross up and over, that might coincide with one of those fibs in a good profit-taking area. All right, let's move on to Riot. I think as we looked before, Riot was the number two overall mining stock. So we're just going to take a little bit of a brief look at it. And Riot, current price around $21.50. This is on Market Watch, by the way. I really like their website if you want to get more into the weeds for any of these stocks, especially these crypto mining stocks. So you go to the financials, balance sheet, cash, short-term investments, around $500 million. This has been common from what we've seen, I think, from Iron and Mara. They had about similar amounts of cash on hand or investing, and total current assets $600 million, and total assets around $4 billion. And those are nice positive ratios compared to their total liabilities. So always like seeing a positive ratio there. When there's a negative ratio and the market does bad, those stocks do worse as far as on average. As far as just some of the news that's out there. I start out this way. I type in a certain stock or crypto, and I see if any articles interest me. But sometimes I think you have to just pause and take a look at what you are seeing. And right now, what we are seeing is bullish articles. And anytime this comes up, I do encourage you to sort of pause and say, okay, if the news is bullish, that might be an area where we can expect a possible pullback. So going over to the Riot chart, which has done very well, it has broken out of this channel. It is getting up towards that golden pocket of 2370 to 2584. Wonder what happens if we zoom in on the daily. Daily overall looking very bullish as well. So like I said, the news is pretty positive. If this was to get any sort of a pullback, I'd be looking for it around that mid $23 area. And then if it came back down, let's add on our moving averages again. If it came back down, we have the 20-day moving average, it's riding up. But the 50-day, even the 100-day has been support before. And I think those are all coming up to the 0.5. So Riot, if it gets stuck in this macro golden pocket area, would not be surprised to see some profits. Maybe come back down to that 16 area, the 0.5 at worst. This area was macro resistance. You can see here, created that channel. So if it did come down here for support, I'd say that's probably a can't miss area. Another thing you can do to look for any discounts, we have our macro fib drawn, but you can even do a micro fib and just draw from low to high. Let's pretend it gets up here, and you can see where some of those fib levels are as well. But yeah, not surprising. If it did stall out here, you can see the 236 as well as that 0.5, both in similar areas. All right, next mining stock we have is Mara. And Mara, it had a nice move. I know today there's a lot of red out there. Yesterday and even at the end of last week, if you didn't see it, you should have, because there was a lot of green. So Mara, it was the #1 mining stock for a while. Does have a $7 billion market cap. It is pumping. These were all hanging around the $5 billion area. All of a sudden, iron, that one's really taken off. Mara, it is pumping a little bit, but just having a minor pullback today. So Mara, it is still overall in this macro descending channel. Remember what we said about Riot? It was breaking out of it, getting to its golden pocket area. Mara has a little bit more strength, so it's a little bit higher in its fibs. And we did have this wedge formation, which it is positively breaking out of. But again, that 618, this golden pocket area, it has been trouble before. And you can see we are drawing our fib high to low. So we have the descending channel as well as that golden pocket area. We did break out of the wedge, which I do like. And yes, we had a little bit of a pullback today. Whatever, that's fine. I don't really care about that. But going back over to the daily, I think, we'll see what happens up here, whether or not there's a strong rejection or if Mara will continue to pump through. And guys, any of these miners, I think they're going to go the way Bitcoin goes. And we've even seen miners recently sort of front running what Bitcoin's going to do. So pay attention to these miners. If they keep popping off the way they have been the last week or two with Bitcoin, these can be big runners for you. You can see even last cycle, this was, let's go to later 2020, October 2020, last cycle. In the span of about, we'll go to where we are now. What day is it? October 7th? All right, October 6th, close enough. In the span of 171 days, all right, so almost 6 months, it went up 2,500%. I'm not expecting as big a gains this time around, but if we even hit where that trend line was, that's almost a third of the movement. But that trend line, again, is going from where the last 2 cycle peaks have been. Not saying it has to get there, but if all of a sudden Bitcoin's going 150 to 200K, I would not be surprised to see mining stocks with similar moves such as that. All right, let's get to Cypher. Cypher was down in the lower top 10. I think it even got out of the top 10 briefly, and this thing has come roaring back. Look at that Cypher. We recently changed our fib from off log scale because it's right at that former all-time high. However, I think it is important. Let's take a look at this on the weekly. Okay, as far as former all-time high, we need to see candle bodies closing above this. The weekly, it doesn't have enough of a candle on it. The daily, I mean, you don't love seeing that. You don't want to start seeing closes under here. But if you do, we can put our fib back on log and look for where that 888 is. And that's right where the 50-day moving average is. So if we do run into resistance here for Cypher, $10 would be the next entry area if we did get a couple weeks of bearishness. Let's go over to Cores. Cores was number one for a hot minute there. So we've had Mara number one for a while. We've had Riot kind of get in that number one spot here and there. Now we've had Iron number one for a few months. Earlier this year, I want to say this year, earlier this year, Cores was the number one or two mining stock for about the first quarter of this year. So let's see how Cores is doing right now. I know it's right around where its former all-time high was last time. And yeah, just like we were talking about with Cypher, similar action. Let's make sure our fib is off log. So I said, with Cypher, if it hits that top area, watch for the 888. And you can see Cores ran into that all-time high area, never had candle bodies closing above. All of a sudden, this big wick down. And isn't it funny how it wicks perfectly to that 888? So make sure you add the 888 to your fib retracement. This thing, I see it come up way too many times. So if you had a buy order, if you were watching Cores like a hawk, and you had a buy order there, that would be, you would have gotten the very literal bottom today. So this candle, I forget the name, is if it's like an inverted hammer or something. But from what I recall, these candles do tend to be good overall. So if we can resume its bullish momentum, we can talk about some fib extension targets. All right, let's go to CleanSpark CLSK. CleanSpark, that is it's a miner, I think, is a little undervalued right now. We'll get into that in a second. Let's first take a look at the chart. So CleanSpark, like we were talking about with the Riot, it is broken out of its descending channel. Mara, we're still waiting on that. CleanSpark's doing that. It wants to get back to the 786 area. You can see how much trouble that 786 has been for a while, but descending channel, accumulation, this thing is rocketing up. So if it can get above that 786 to this $24 area, so around $21 to $24, if it can get above there, then I think CleanSpark's going to do very well for itself. And as far as CleanSpark being a little undervalued, by the way, this website, it's called companiesmarketcap.com. And I love this website for this reason. Here we're just looking at the order of the top mining stocks, but we can go by earnings. And you can see CleanSpark very high up there in earnings. Hut as well. That actually surprised me a little bit. Hive being up there. It's a lower market cap mining stock, but even Hive being up there a little bit. Let's go to, don't care about that. Let's go to revenue. As far as revenue, Mara up there, CleanSpark again. And so in PE ratio, CleanSpark, this is interesting now. It doesn't look like the PE ratios are totally organized. There we go. IREN, you can see its price earnings ratio is super high, but CleanSpark isn't. So, take that for what you will. Where is Hive? I'm curious. Negative 202. So we'll get to Hive last. Maybe Hive and even Wolf. I guess even Cores. Maybe there's more to it than that. But yeah, we can move on from this. I just thought, I was taking a look at earnings and revenue. It's like, CleanSpark's up there. So, yet it's lower on the market cap list. So just saying. Anyways, let's go to TeraWolf, which had a negative P ratio for some reason. I'll have to do some more research on that. As far as TeraWolf, let's zoom out here. Still moving up in this descending channel. I am a little worried if it runs into the upper end of this channel, right around the 786. I think that area around $17 is going to be interesting. I think it could potentially be a pretty tough ceiling to get through. But the thing is, if you ever see any of these stocks or cryptos, whatever, in an ascending pattern, break up and out of it, that's a very good sign. And at least from my experience when I've seen that, that's also a sign that whatever euphoric parabolic move that comes right after is the last move. So just be aware of that. That's just going by experience and what I've seen before. But if it can ever get up and over this, usually that move tends to coincide with close to where the final pumps are coming. So Wolf doing well right now. If it did have any bit of a pullback after the 786, I think this area, this golden pocket area, the 6.5, that was once resistance, maybe it could come back down to $9.50. All right, we'll take a quick look at HUT, and then we'll do our bottom three low caps, Bitfarms, Hive, Bit Digital. Let's first take a look at HUT. And as far as HUT, like I said, these channels, you got to watch them. Right at the 786, sort of like what Wolf is doing. So if this one can get and move above, you might see a very big move up in a very short period of time. Yeah, let's see where the 888 is. I haven't changed this fib around in a while, and it even needs a golden pocket. Let's take care of that too. When I first started this channel, there was news about HUT having legal problems, and that I want to say it was right around, was it over here or here? I forget. I think it was over here. Could have got HUT for 6 times less amount of money. So that FUD was literally the best time to buy. But that 888 area, if it breaks out, I'd be watching for $59 and some possible resistance there. Let's get into our bottom three, Bit Digital, Bitfarms, Hive. Let's go Bitfarms first. This one had a nice big move recently. I'm wondering what's going on. Okay, so Bitfarms had this big move, blew right through the 0.5 golden pocket area, but look at this. We have former resistance here, okay, or former top. This top at around 390, I think, is going to be an interesting ceiling. It's getting close to it. If it can get above, that's very good. And yes, it might come back down, get some support at the 61865, this golden pocket area between 285 and 315. It could come back down to there after finishing this move. But then it's got the 786 and away we go. So again, let's add on the 888 to this fib, make sure that's in there. And yeah, that'll just be another target to look for should the 786 be taken. All right, let's go to Bit Digital, and then we'll finish with Hive. Bit Digital still accumulating. This isn't really totally a downward channel to me. This is accumulation, massive accumulation. We have the 0.5 as well as, it's not the perfect channel here. Sue me, or don't please. But this area between the 0.5 at 420 to 460, watch what happens here. And if we get a rejection area, or if it can't even get above some of these former tops, it could come back down to its 3.2 at 261, or at least one of these moving averages too. All right, and we'll finish off today's video with Hive. And Hive looking very nice. And by the way, thank you to whoever that person was that brought up Hive as a mining stock to pay attention to down here. Because of you, myself, some others, I hope, have made some good money off it. So Hive back to a former area of resistance. It is out of its channel, but now it has those former areas of resistance to get past these former peaks, as well as the 0.5. So this $6 to, I'll just say $6 to $7 range. This is an area to watch for possible pullbacks, take profits, maybe come back down to the channel or regain support at the 0.5 before shooting up to this golden pocket. But so far, Hive has done very well in a very short period of time. And last cycle, we saw something similar. By the time we got the euphoric cycle top, again, if we're just looking October to Q1 next year, could Hive be one of those mining stocks that can go have a huge move up? You take a look at this. That was almost a 20x move, $1.50 to $30. So, could we see something similar for Hive? Its last two cycle tops, kind of like Riot and a lot of these others, we have connecting top trend lines that aren't too far from their all-time highs. Could Hive do a 5x from here and get back up to $30? So anyways, as you can see across the board, miners have had a good pump recently. Are they due for a pullback? I'd say so. I wouldn't be surprised. But right now with the way they're pumping, me personally, I wouldn't be chasing. I'm not going to dollar cost average in at these premiums. I'm going to be patient and wait for better entry territories or opportunities after these moves finish out. So hope you all enjoyed today's video. Hope you all are having a fantastic Tuesday and have a good rest of the week. So thanks again so much for stopping by and watching, and take care.